Careful, come on, use your brains. Where's the thumb? That's the thumb. And let's see if anyone's awake. It's a bit early in the UK, a bit late in the US. But we'll try our luck. No dropped frames, thankfully. 3 megabit. Let's see who turns up. Anybody? Anybody? Right, TCRS. Late night syndrome's getting worse. Oh dear. Have you tried sleeping? Yeah. Let's see, I get my tools for this. Hey, Dr. Teddy. Good to see you. I'm running out of energy myself for the day, so I'll get into this straight away. What we have here, this is a Australian Telstra phone. Telstra is our major provider in this country. It's actually a ZTE T84. There's also a ZTE T83, which is called the Dave, as in Dave James. This is the T84, it's the Toughmax. And the most common fault we get on these is when people are using them in their vehicles and they've got the external antenna. And this little contraption here, the external antenna port, it takes too much physical stress and it just starts, just breaks off. So, now they're pretty good phones other than that. I can't really get parts for them most of the time, but fortunately I can still fix this up. I do have spare connectors if that's required. Like if it's torn the legs off the switch assembly that's built in, then I'll have to put a new one on there. Hey Pernov, Hughes, Johnny, I think that's everybody, yep. So did anyone see Jess's tractor guy stream today? I didn't see it live, I missed it by an hour or two. But it was pretty amusing. I didn't watch all of it, but it was amusing enough to see the tractor guy. Now one of the worst aspects of this phone is you get those 4 big screws out, that's no problem. But on the side, they have got these little hex screws, and they are 0.9mm hex. And it's an absolute pain in the posterior getting them in and out. Most of the time when I get these phones, these side screws have been rounded out because somebody else has tried every single thing they can to get them out without success. So what I often have to do then is get the Dremel out, and I will create a reasonable slot by first dremeling with the grinding bit just on one side there and then on the other side, and it opens up a fairly wide or fairly even aspect sort of slot, and I can put a coarse screwdriver in there and get them out. But I don't know why they had to make it 0.9. I would have thought they'd go for something like 1.5 or even 1.2. 0.9 is just ridiculous. Hey Handy Parts, did you enjoy your trip to JCar today? Now you got your Gootwick. I have to get some more Gootwick. I need to order a box of 10 of each or something. It's a classified as a waterproof type phone. Well, not truly waterproof, but so far as... and they do take the knocks pretty well, these things. Plenty of people drop them without much effect. I do occasionally need to do a screen replacement of this, but the hardest thing has been getting the screens themselves. Fortunately, someone in China has now started selling them, so yeah, I can offer that as an option. Otherwise, I just get the data off. I keep a spare screen myself, get the data off, and go from there. Alright, I'll get the battery off. These batteries are a nuisance. You've got to get in under the cable and flip it up. There's no real structurally sound lip at the front that you can flick up. You've got to come in from the cables, and I hate that because you're not supposed to be putting stress on those leads. Oh yeah, you got that GPU thing. So is it still skipping back 20% of the time? Oh, it does every once in a while, yeah. I don't know how you're going to fix that up. I've never used that sort of thing myself. It would be nice if you could just find a way to outright disable the um, fancy GPU. Alright. So here we go. This part here just boop, comes off. And that looks like a train wreck. I won't be using that one again. Glenn Campbell. Who's Glenn Campbell? What do I know Glenn Campbell? That name vaguely rings a bell. Who's Glenn Campbell? Yeah, Genuine Goodwick is... Ah, it's gone. Hey, Cormac. I'm going to have a look at this. This is my standoff box. My Barlow, my 0.5 Barlow should turn up on Monday. I still don't know if I'll end up using it or whether I'll stick with using a standoff like this. The upside of using a standoff like this is that, oh yeah, you will literally rip the legs out of that sucker. Yeah, you've got one less optical element in the way, and I know it's a tiny amount of difference, and probably doesn't truly make any noticeable difference, but every time you do put a lens or something additional piece of glass in there, you are losing some level of light. You're going to be a pain in the ass. I actually may have to bring the monster out for this one. I can't really use hot air because the battery on this, the battery is stuck onto the circuit board. And I have tried removing those before, but the moment you do that, you usually completely feck them up. And I don't really want to have to do that. Oh well, I'm so sorry you guys can't see this, but it's the usual minefield of pubes. What the fuck? Sorry, excuse my... I've got two parts here, nearly coming off the board as well. Not sure what's happened. This is not the state that I remember seeing it in the last time. Oh well. Let's see what we can do. Oh yeah, so much difference with Zoom, I know. You can actually see what you're doing for a change. It's nice. I picked up an iPhone C last night. It came in with a really strange problem. The Apple logo, it would boot to the Apple logo and sometimes all the way to what look... Oh man, I just put the soldering on my fingertips. That was always... It's fun. Bring the microscope down, you guys can have a look at what I'm doing. That brightness is going to be a bit of a... Let's see if I can adjust this. Focus. Focus, focus, focus. I think it's a little overblown. Yeah, the camera can't handle that sort of contrast, so I'll wind that back down. That should be enough for me to work on. The downside is my big fat fist is going to get in the way, I think. Yeah, I think it will. I'll have to just scoot this to the side. That'll suffice. That one came off easy. Hey, baby.
Your customer.
Customer. I'll be right back. Customer's here. Alrighty, we're back. I just had to get that out of the way. That was the last pickup of the day. I didn't really want to let that languish more than I had to. What am I after? I do need a little bit of wick here. These are actually amazing little connectors because they're not just a straight plain plug for your antenna cable to sit on. When the pin for the antenna comes through, there's two contacts inside this plug and they separate out, which switches off the pathway to the existing or the internal antenna. And what often can happen, I've noticed this on a lot of Samsungs, people experiment with their own little antennas, and those antennas have a pin on them that's slightly larger in diameter, and it completely destroys that internal switch assembly. So then they take out that little test antenna, which works, by the way. It goes, yeah, it works, I've got reception on this special little antenna external thing. And then when they take it out, their internal antenna doesn't work anymore because it's bent the contacts too far out and they don't come back together to re-establish a connection. And they're like, what do I do, man? My phone's ruined. It's pretty amusing. You get it quite a bit, particularly on, like I said, particularly on the Samsungs for some reason. Alright, so what the fault is here is this this little chap has obviously ripped off. Is that out of focus? When it's ripped off, it's taken with it. That's better. It's taken with it the copper plane that it was soldered onto. It's a bit of a structural design fault with this. There's not enough purchase on the feet around the connector to be able to handle the stresses imposed on it. You could say, rather than putting larger feet on it, what they probably could have done is improve the recess in here, this section here. If they put like a tighter fitting throat or a deeper throat or something like that, and stop the wiggling motion of the antenna cable from being pushed out or being handled by the circuit board copper layer. Oh yeah, the microscope's brilliant. Yeah, I'm not using any lenses here. If I decide the 0.5 Barlow is just too much for me, I do still have a 1x Barlow, which is all the 1x Barlow is just a thin plate of glass. Does obviously no magnification or anything. The reason why I want it is because I don't want the fumes and the flux splatter and the lead splatter and all that sort of stuff. I don't want that landing on the primary objectives of the microscope, because if you damage those primary objectives, then you can clean them off, but there's always going to be that little bit of imperfection. So hopefully mine should, yeah, they are exactly what Coolmax said. Yeah, hopefully mine should turn up on Monday. Worst case scenario, I'll still put the 0.5 on just so I'm not flying with risk there, sort of thing. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do here, let's see if I can show you this. Okay, you can see where it's been ripped out there and there. So like if I put a new connector on, it's going to have basically nothing to purchase onto. So what I might do is I'll scratch out some of the conformal layer and maybe layer it down with some solder braid or something like that. I could put some JB Weld on there. I'm a little concerned about that because if I JB Weld that, JB Weld doesn't really have the best surface adhesion, like for tensile pull resistance. It's more of a, internally it's very strong. So if I put that on there, it's kind of like just putting a bit of hot glue on there and just pop right off. Unless I gouge it and make some sort of keying in there for it to wick into. But JB Weld does, its viscosity is such that it doesn't tend to wick so much. A bit like the other night I was saying how with the screw threads you can safely put assembled screw and nut assembly into JB Weld if it's fine enough pitch because it won't wick in. Right, okay, well, Q's, you're on the same page as me. Very hard to get screens to the T84. Yeah, Worldtech, if you check on eBay Australia, they've got them now, they're about $67, which is pretty cheap. I've ordered a couple because same as you, up to now they've been impossible to really get. So it's good to see them offering, and they get here in about 2 weeks or so. But definitely this is the bigger flaw that I always come up with, the T84. Ah, God, nearly impaled myself with that. My wife's going to come running in. You okay? And I'll be like, no, I'm dying. Yeah, time to scratchy. At least I can actually see what I'm doing this time. Previous times I've done this, it's sort of been all blind. I'm like, well, I hope I'm scratching up the right stuff. I might use a slightly more effective tool. JB smells like royal ass if heated. Yeah, okay, I'm not going to try heating it then. Alright, TCRS, thanks for popping in anyway. Hope you get some sleep. Oh yeah, that's more like it. Yeah, just scratch that layer off. Oh yeah. Oh, sounds like someone's testing their accelerator on the car. So I fixed a iPhone 5C last night. This is a water damage. Well, I didn't know it was water damage. It just came in with a very strange looking screen. Like you'd boot up the Apple logo, and it had that interlaced look as if the connector was damaged. And before it would generally boot up properly, it would like fade out as if it was being dissolved by acid. And the other thing is, it also, if you looked at it closely, it had a kind of a crosshatch pattern on it, like vertically and horizontally, which is a little weird. Because normally I'm used to seeing them like just vertically if you've got a connector issue. But yeah, so this one was in both directions. Anyway, it turned out, liquid had gotten in there, and I could see down in the RF section a few of the pieces being completely eaten out. But that didn't solve it. And then compass was getting pretty hot, so I pulled that off, and it was corroded. How many tweezers have you filed? I've got 3 that I filed down now. I took my very expensive Lindstrom ones. These are about, I think, about $50-$60. And they did have very good points on them, but then I turned them into gnarly old person fingers like that. Because I was fucking around with them and didn't, mistreated them, so that was my own fault. So I filed these down. I can't get them back down to what they were, but they are still pretty good. Fortunately, the base metal that they're built from is pretty good, so yeah, it gives me a good starting point. I guess the lesson there is don't use tools for the wrong purpose unless you're willing to accept that they're going to get destroyed. I'm trying to get this up as much as possible. I don't want any conformal obstructing it. I shouldn't say conformal, I mean mask. I've got to be careful around here because I've got a bunch of caps and resistors. They look like little O201s. Now this sound is reminiscent of when... That sound is reminiscent of when I got my toenails wedged. Like any of you have had ingrown toenails. After the first couple of attempts of them just cutting the nail off and letting it grow back, and if that doesn't work, then you've got to take it up a notch and go get the nail bed reduced in width. And the way they do that is they cut back the flesh on your toe, reveal the bone, the growth area for the nail, and then grind out that area, and it sounds like this. And of course you're a real idiot, which I was. You ask the doctor, and so what's that noise? And he says, oh, you don't want to know. No, tell me, what's the noise? And he goes, I'm just grinding away your bone. And for some reason, no, that just sort of makes you a little bit sick and queasy. So don't know why, but it just does. Oh, you're a reluctant little sucker, aren't you? So yeah, I didn't ask that twice. Then again, I've never gone back for that operation again because it did its job. It worked. Who hasn't used a screwdriver? Oh yeah, I mean, goodness yes. Hey Robert. Yes. It seems to be the favourite thing to do, isn't it? When pressed for time or whatever, you use the wrong tool for the job. Oh, no wonder that. Now that I've cleared it away, I can see why that wasn't coming off, because it wasn't actually anything on there, it was a hole. So I was trying to magically make a hole shrink by scratching away at it. That really works. I'm sorry there's no camera for this. That will be still some time away, a little way. Working on it as quick as I can. They'll get there. In the meantime, you just have to put up with me rambling away. Much better than Good Morning TV. Grab what's at hand and make it work. Yep. It's really not a good thing to do, but unfortunately it's the nature of being human sometimes. And obviously not all humans are like that. There are some people out there who are very good at controlling stupid impulses like that. Usually after they've done it a few times and realise that's not the best way to do it. We've got some good scratchy scratch there. Yeah, I'll have a look. So it's looking pretty shiny and nice. Now the trouble is, I've got to ask myself, will that be enough? Because it won't obviously be soldering directly down. You'll be relying on the solder holding from the edges, like a little clamp sort of thing. Edge clamping. I don't know. I guess there's not much else I can do, otherwise I'm basically, this is a dead fan otherwise, or for that purpose. So I better get my replacement unit. Oh, come on, where are you guys? Laptop parts. iPhone test bits. Where are my iPhone parts? iPhone parts. Look, my chair is sinking. I fall into the hole. Oh, here we go. Back onto the iPhone 5C problem. So yeah, I removed the compass and it still wasn't coming up. So I just started measuring around on all the rails, and it turned out one of the backlight, one of the drivers anyway, was not so good. It was reading 0 ohms. So I thought, hallelujah, I found it. And I was very fortunate that even though the whole area is normally, it's normally got all the underfill and just that sort of stuff around. The cap that I took the gamble on was the one on the very edge. It was C52, and you know the 5C, C52. Pop that sucker off like with the flick method, and hallelujah, it worked. So I was pretty happy about that. The customer got their data, and the best thing is I get to keep that phone too. I asked the customer, I said, do you mind if I, it's not much use to you because it's missing your compass, and it won't pick up the radio, it won't pick up the mobile bands that you need because the RF section's blown. So yeah, go ahead, have it. So now I've got some more parts. That's it, I've already got a bunch of 5Cs, but it's always nice to have a few more. Alright. Yeah. This is going to be fun. Alright, let's get those legs on. Tell me you've at least pointed your Logitech webcam down. No, I put my own eyeball down there to have a look. And then I realised, this is going to be just a bit of an exercise in futility, so I didn't bother. I think if I did that, there was two things. I thought if I'm going to stuff around, I'm probably going to end up putting junk down there, and I really don't want to have to try and clean out that port. I've seen what happens when people try to clean out those optics. Just ask Mark, Jess's Mark. He'll tell you what happens. Even when you put him in the optical ultrasonic cleaner, it doesn't work. My fume system, my extractor system should turn up the very latest next Friday. So I'm kind of really hanging out for that. I've given up on the one I've got here. Okay, that's good. Is that a stress point? Yes, it is, Robert. What's the problem is that it has no support from the plastic casing, or it doesn't have enough support, and there is just no way that there's no way that this little connector is designed to cope with that sort of thing. I mean, it can cope with a bit, but not the amount it's been exposed to. And so it's a fairly common job that comes in here. I have a feeling I'm going to need the monster to do this particular next section, because it's a whopping great big ground plane, and as much as I like this FX951, yeah, here we go. I'll just keep feeding it solder and hopefully it might. Try that. Because I was tempted at first to put the JV board on there, but now looking at it, I really don't want to. There's too many parts in extremely close proximity. Robert, the problem with the super glue, if I try to put that under there, it will cause the micro switch that's inside of that connector to fuse. It won't work properly. I'm happy to tell you why I know that, because I tried it. It was a gamble when I first tried it, and yeah, it turned out I was right. Now, come on. Oh, I hate it when this happens. I hate that feeling of when solder just sticks. T12 BCM3, that would actually be a good choice, yes. I've got the T12 D12, but it hasn't really lived up to my hopes and dreams. Shattered them. Oops. This is a real god-awful mess, I will admit that willingly. The front one's nicely flowed, but the back one's a disaster. I can't even take this buzzer off because it's soldered on the bottom too. I'm not sure I'm going to put any more solder on there. Yeah, it's the wicking effect that gets you. I would put down something that's not inclined to wick, but yeah, the wicking, maybe if it was perhaps super thick super glue, or crazy glue, whatever you guys want to call it. Like I know model aircraft building, you can get different gradients or different viscosities of super glue. And like you have the ultra thin, which is ultra risky. The number of times that I have burned myself with ultra thin super glue, oh man. And you do burn yourself, because what happens is it, like particularly if you're got any cotton or anything on you, like say if you've got jeans on and you spill and you spill that stuff on your jeans, you're going to get yourself a nice burn. Please tell me that didn't work up there. That's not so bad. I will confess now, I'm not really happy with that, but at the same time, I'm kind of inhibited to do much else. You can see that top section. It doesn't come up too clearly on screen, but it's kind of like got that wave welded look. Yeah. I mean, it's sturdy as heck for a finger on it. I'm a little concerned about it. It wicked up slightly on the barrel of the connector. Not a lot. No, that should be within tolerance. Okay. I think we'll go with that. And if he tears it off, then we'll commit it to death. I don't like finishing a job up feeling like that, but sometimes it's just the way it goes. Let's make sure it turns on. Nope. Oh well. Good sign. Hot stuff thins here. Oh man, that was brutal stuff. Yeah. Can't use B7000 because it requires pressure to squeeze out the air bubbles into it. Oh, okay. Didn't realise that. WorldTech, thank you for that. That'll actually be useful in the future when I use that stuff. T30KN. Oh, that's the micro tip, isn't it? Micro soldering. If you leave a drop of B7000 on your desktop, it never sets. Yeah. Almost makes me want to try that. Yeah, I have noticed that about B7000 being like the old modelling glues, back in like the late 70s and pretty much the late 70s, and that sort of gooey stuff that never really quite seemed to set properly. Okay, let's see if this is good. Where is that? Alright, there's no sim in here, thank God for that. The reason why I'm happy that there's no sim in here is because it's saying it's got no reception. And that would be a real sad event if it had no reception after I've worked on it. Let's get this. But yeah, WorldTech's, if you, like I said, check out eBay for the T84 screens, and hopefully they'll still have them there for you. So I now like to keep a couple in stock. I'm just waiting on restocking. Because being in a rural area, they are a popular phone. But then I suppose anyone who's doing like on-site work and things like that, they seem to be popular with the builders and the plumbers. Okay, I need to get this out of here, so I'm going to readjust everything again. That. Focus. There we go. Probably 2-part Araldite glue on the outside. Araldite was something that I never ever liked the smell of. I remember we used to get 5-minute Araldite, and that stuff was pretty much useless. And of course, as soon as you get it even remotely warm, anything around about 50 degrees, maybe 60, it just loses all its strength. Like I remember people would use it for mounting their engines on the model aircraft for a while, at least at the start. And of course, the glow engine on the model aircraft would heat up the area a fair bit. And of course, you'd have bolts going through the firewall, off the mount, and that would transfer back into the epoxy. And then all of a sudden you get this engine flying off into midair and the plane crashing down, flip-flopping. All because the 5-minute Araldite got a bit too hot. I imagine people didn't do that too many times. Just once or twice. Where's my... There it is. Yeah, I only just started, was able to get the T84s maybe 2-3 months ago. Prior to that, you just couldn't get them at the best. You could get the bare glass, and yeah, I'm not that much of a sadomastic person. No, thank you. Yeah, if I'm going to do an assembly that I rarely do, I mean, as in I don't do it every day, then there is no way I'm going to go try to do a non-framed replacement. It's just too many things that go wrong. Okay. But definitely these little 0.9mm hex, I think I'm going to have to cut that off and put it into a sort of a holder or something, because it's a bit awkward to use like that. But it does the job for now, but it is awkward. Nope, wrong one. T8's what you want. This should be hex screws, but here we go. Using the wrong tools for the job. I'm using Torx driver for a hex screw. T8, wow, for $32. That's actually, it's a shame you can't get them like that anymore. Cormac, talk about changing the goalposts there, yeah. I gotta say, I'm much happier with electric planes. I was trying to do electric planes back in, it would have been the mid-80s with buggy motor gears. And I had a nice 2-meter Brolga. Australians would know the Brolga. And that worked pretty good. Yeah, it was just you let it run until, there wasn't even a switch on it, you just charged it, let it go. So it was a bit of a ride for the first minute or two. I think it would give me about 3 minutes of flight. I had a folding prop, and then the nickel cadmium batteries just went flat. I didn't even think I had a diode to stop the reverse current on that one, but anyway, who cares? Okay, that's good. Alright, that's done. Hopefully that will survive. It was certainly a stronger job than it was the other time, and a lot of that is because I was able to see properly this time, which helps. Some bag of phone goodies. Just going to make sure I know how much. Yep, got the TriStars there. I've got to do another job. I'm waiting on. So for the last year or so, I've got every non-broken T84 just to get the screen. Wow, yeah, I can understand that. Yeah. Yeah. I'm waiting on some new metal shears that I've purchased. Like when people want to cut the shield, like in say the iPhone 6s. Pardon me. Let me get. Where is my iPhone 6s? Where are you? Not you? No. I don't know where my other one is. I've got a perfectly good working iPhone 6s that I'm brutalising because I'm practicing. But anyway, when you get on the iPhone 6s, the TriStar chip is nested under a corner here. And you can pull it out, and put it back in. It's a bit tricky, and as I've found in my practicing, you have a bad habit of knocking nearby components off. I mean, I'll put them back, but it's just another level of risk. So what other people do is they will use a pair of clips and take out the corner. But there's a couple of problems. First time, these clips are way too big anyway. So I do have some much finer ones that will go down to 0.2 mil cut from the board, which is quite close. Like if you have a 0.2 mil thick single strand of wire. That's sweet.
Customer.
Sorry?
Customer.
Really? Okay, I'll be back. Someone new. Oh yeah, of course. Sorry, that was unexpected. Even at, what is the time now? 6:15 and it's dark. Yeah, as I was saying, I generally don't like using these sort of nips for cutting sheet metal frames like that. Mostly because when you do nip into it, and because these frames are soldered down at various points, as you nip in and you crush, it causes a great deal of stress on those solder down points, and you can cause fractures and things like that, unless the nips themselves are extremely sharp or extremely fine. So it's a bit of a toss-up which way is the worst way to go. So I've got some ultra-fine ones coming, but I also have some shears coming, and they're about $50 or something like that. What they are, they're effectively a scissor version of this, or a tin snips, but they're only 12 millimeters long. We'll see how they go when they get here. I'm going to have to do this TriStar sooner or later. I'm just kind of like holding off. It'd be fine if it was my own, but because it is a customer's, naturally I tend to be a little bit more apprehensive. I removed the outer shield. It's a lot easier than damaging components with tweezers. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm sort of aiming for, but at the same time I don't want to be too cavalier with the nipping. Yeah, I could just be paranoid. I've just always got to worry about when you do impose a great deal of stress like that on soldered frames. I'm worried about delamination and things like that. Like I said, I'm probably overthinking it, probably being excessively concerned. But yeah, and it's probably the more I do, the less I'll worry about it. One can only hope. Let's see. We got a person commenting something in here. Tim Fan. Who's Tim Fan? Why stream so late or early in the morning? I can't watch. Oh well. Yeah. Yeah, I just stream whenever I get the chance. I have no schedule whatsoever. Big iron, dial it to the max, and remove that outer shield. Well, with the 6S, I presume you know what I'm talking about. It's the one where the TriStar is. It's got the mesh layer, the mesh sticker layer over it. You peel that back, and then you've got the wall around it like that. And so I would probably sooner take my chance with using tweezers again to get that TriStar out from under the corner than try and remove that whole shield thing. Anyway, I'm sure it'll be fine one way or another. I'm just, like I said, I'm just overthinking it. I do try to cover my own butt as much as I can. If you need to snip, just use $2 nut clippers. I have got some of those, but I think maybe they're a little bit dud. Yeah, we'll see how we go. I'm very curious to see how these shears go, because I can see them being used for many other things, like if I want to reshape if I want to reshape a shield or something like that, then they're basically going to be like little micro tin snips. So it's hard without the main shield in place. Yeah. With the main shield in place, yeah, it is. I did it. I've done it twice, but I always have to clean up afterwards. It's like, whoops, lost that part. Whoops, lost that part. Thankfully, at least in that particular area, on the 6S, the TriStar, you only have a pair of 0 ohm links and then a couple of fairly insignificant little capacitors. No need for expensive snips. I'm going to still try the snips I already have anyway. I ordered them. I am curious to see what they're like though. What about a jig? Don't think a jig's going to, not in that sort of tightness. Oh well. Anyway, this is done and I can give this back to the person. They'll be anxious to get it back because they've got to go off to their work tomorrow. But that finishes it up, and I'm going to dig around and see what else I can do tonight, more practicing. And hopefully on Monday I will get my Barlow lenses. I should get some more MacBook Pro boards. I'll get some Razer boards, like Razer laptop boards. Hopefully a few other things to play around with. What did you have before the microscope? Like, what did you use before then? All I had before then was this magnifying lamp. It's a pretty decent one, but it only gives me 2.5 magnification. But it is a nice big element. Well, that's the thing, Robert. Yeah, it's like, if they're really good snips and they're not just bludgeoning their way through, if they've got a proper sharpness on them, then it may work out better than the snips. The clip snips. So, like I said, I'm going to find out whether clip snips or shears do the same damage, worse damage, different, whatever. It's going to be interesting to see what the differences are. But certainly with snips, the biggest problem really comes down to is it's okay while you're biting through the metal, but then when you finish biting through the metal and you get that final compression, cut through, that's usually when all the shock and damage happens. Although it's such tiny scales, who's going to know? Okay, I'm out of here. Thank you all for coming in, and I don't know when I'll be back next, but I'll be back next at some time. Until then, take care. I'll see you later.